I've been to Yellowstone so many times, I figured I'd make a little video with some of our favorite things that we do when we go there. First of all, Yellowstone is really laid out in two circles, both of which take a day to do, typically. Most people stay in West Yellowstone here and enter the park this way, and then you either kind of go this way around the loop, or you'll end up going this way around the upper loop. So 2 days you can do most of the park and see the highlights. Some of the other major areas here, this area right here is where all the geysers are. So you get like Old Faithful, Norris Geyser Basin, oops, Norris is up here, some really cool hot pots and stuff down here in West Thumb. So most of the stuff that's up here in the north is like, there's kind of a mountain range right here, and then this area out here on the west, on the east side, is Lamar Valley, which is a really incredible place, but kind of hard to get to all the way from over here to get out there and back in one day. It can be pretty difficult. So Lamar Valley tends to be less visited than most of the other places. You also have Hayden Valley, which is where you get a lot of buffalo traffic jams. There's tons of buffalo sightings over here, and black bear, sometimes grizzly bears you'll see in there. Grizzly bears tend to hang out mostly in Lamar Valley, but you will see them occasionally in Hayden Valley as well. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the things to do on the lower loop first of all. So you come into the park and you run into this Madison area. It's a really nice little area, but I'd probably save that for the back end of your loop. I'll explain why here in a minute. So if you turn right and you head down this road, Firehole Falls and Firehole River, very popular places, and you can swim in that river. But we don't go there because we have another place that we go swimming that we like better. So, you know, totally up to you, of course, but what I would do first is get to this Midway Geyser Basin, this Grand Prismatic Spring right here. And there's actually two places to stop here. So when you first drive down here, you'll get to a parking lot that says the Grand Prismatic Spring, and you'll walk out on this boardwalk right next to this huge prismatic spring, and it just looks like a sea, kind of like a big pond or a big lake or something like that, and it's steaming, of course, like a geyser does. And so that's a really, really cool place to go, especially first thing in the morning. I love first thing in the morning. We were driving down this road the last time we were there, and there was all this steam coming up from the ground. It was really quite an amazing sight. After you see the Grand Prismatic Spring from right next to it, if you just drive to the very next stop, and it's not really marked on this map here, but there's a stop right after the main Prismatic Spring, which I believe is called Fairy Falls or something like that. And what there is a little hike that will come back up into here on a hill, where you can then overlook the Prismatic Spring from above, and that's a very stunning view, so I would definitely recommend that. So 2 stops there for the Grand Prismatic Spring. Some of our favorites. A lot of people for some reason don't really know about this spot, and I guess it's because there actually wasn't a real trail until recently. That people would just kind of walk back there and then climb the hill and look over it, and finally there was enough people finding out about this that the park actually put a trail in there to the top of the hill with a little overlook station. So highly recommend checking that out. The next stop, of course, is Old Faithful, which is right here. Um, I still like going to see Old Faithful every time I go there, so I would definitely go there. All right, Cheryl, tell us what happened here.
All right, so we were pulling up looking for a parking spot, and Matt and Dave were getting ready to drop us off, and all of a sudden the guide starts going off, so we just ran out of the car and saw it. No wait. It was perfect timing.
If you're there and you have a little bit of time, you can walk on some boardwalks back up here and see some other geysers, and sometimes you'll see some really amazing ones go off. They're unpredictable, but you might be able to catch some really cool ones, and you can kind of walk back on this boardwalk and then back around. Not a bad little walk if you're, if you have a little bit of extra time. And then next stop would be West Thumb. West Thumb has some pretty amazing just hot pots, I guess, like where you look down in them and they go way down into the ground, and they're really cool, and you're walking right along the lake. That's a really cool area, one that we stop at just about every time. If you're into fishing bridge course right here. When you come up here, if you turn right, you'll drive right across Fishing Bridge. There's a little gas station if you need to fill up on gas right there. One time we kind of drove out here a little bit and saw some pretty cool little places along the river and stopped and had a picnic at one of these places. I'm not sure which, but so that's an option there. If you keep going all the way out the east entrance, you'll get to Cody, Wyoming, which was a city set up by Buffalo Bill Cody. And I've yet to get there because it's just too hard to get all the way out there and then all the way back to West Yellowstone. But one of these days, I'll get out there and stay at night. And then this whole area right here is Hayden Valley, and you're going to see a lot of wildlife here: buffaloes, bears, fox. So really, this is kind of an unpredictable area. You just have to play it by ear. You might get stuck there for a while. You might want to stop and get out and look at some stuff, but it's a very pretty just valley overlook. We always call them buffalo traffic jams. My mom hates the buffalo. She hates the buffalo traffic jams. She calls them inconsiderate buffalo. They just walk right in the middle of the way and stop traffic. And then you get to Canyon here, and there are the upper falls and lower falls. Okay, here is the Yellowstone River, which flows north. A little strange, flows north in that direction there. So this is the upper falls and the lower falls. The two most popular spots to see, this right up here in the upper right is the main road, part of the loops that you drive. If you turn off of that road, up here you can cross over the river and head down this road right here. If you keep going that road, you'll get to a parking lot which will take you to a place called Artist Point. And from there you will look back at the lower falls right here. And this is the iconic image you see of Yellowstone with the waterfall coming. And this whole area, around this fall here, is called the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. And then you can also stop here in this parking lot and take a little walk down, and you'll look across the river at the Upper Falls. It's not quite as popular, but that's a spot you can see too. And then after you leave this area, you can keep driving up the road here and turn into this parking lot and walk down to this little point right here and look at the Upper Falls. They call that the brink of the Upper Falls. Those are the two most popular spots to look at, is the brink of the Upper Falls, where you're really standing right here next to the waterfalls that comes off, and then Artist Point there, where you can look at the lower falls. And then mostly you're done with the lower loop. You'll end up driving back here. And the reason why I mentioned Madison is because they have some ranger programs there at night. So by the time you get back to Madison, if it's in the evening, that's a pretty cool thing to do. We've seen some really nice ranger programs there. If you're into that, but it's kind of cool because you're sitting there in the park in the evening, and they're showing you some pretty neat stuff on a slideshow and telling you some interesting facts about the park and all that. But it's a cool little valley just to overlook anyway, and a nice little way to end up the day if you want to. Okay, now time to do the upper loop here. The first stop on the upper loop is Norris Geyser Basin. Now keep in mind that you could do Canyon, Norris, and Madison all on the upper loop if you really want to, because they're all located on there as well. So you can kind of plan out your schedule as you need to. Some of that might depend on whether you want to go all the way out to Lamar Valley. If you go all the way out there on the upper loop, then you're not going to have time to do the other things on the lower loop. But for this video, we'll go here to Norris, and we'll go work our way up around the upper loop that way. Norris is really cool because it just looks like a desolate kind of wasteland, unlike any other thing you'll see. Norris Geyser Basin, I guess they call it Geyser Basin. There's not really a lot of geysers like that are going off like there is down in the lower part of the park. But it's just this kind of strange, eerie, unique view. As you drive up the road here, there really isn't much to see or do. We did stop at this picnic area one day and happened to see this pelican hunting for fish in the river, and it would just float down the river and then it would fly back up, hop in the river, and float on back down. And it was just so neat. We sat there for about a half hour just watching this pelican, and this is really one of the cool things about Yellowstone, is just you don't know when you're going to see something really interesting or unique. So you really kind of have to play it, be flexible. You have to see Yellowstone on Yellowstone's terms, because you just don't know when you're going to need to stop and enjoy the moment. All right, the next stop up here is Mammoth Hot Springs. At Mammoth, there are a couple of really interesting terraced hot springs, I guess is what they're called, but it's really dried out now, so you don't see a lot of water running down them anymore. It used to be that you would see quite a bit, but it's been many years since I've seen that. Still, it's really nice just to walk around. You can kind of start up high and walk down the steps into town. There's actually a little town of Mammoth that has a little hospital and a gas station, places to eat, some things like that. And if you stop right there in town, there's little picnic tables that you can stop at, and the elk will just hang out with you. There's tons of elk all over the place. Just kind of hang out with you. You really need to try not to get too close. Sometimes the park ranger will come over and tell people to get out of the way. Here at Mammoth also, if you just drive up the road a little bit, two pretty cool things that you'll see. Number one is this Roosevelt Arch. This arch is dedicated to Teddy Roosevelt, who was really an environmentalist and the first president to really champion the national parks. Okay, so that's Roosevelt Arch. And then also right around here is a place called Boiling River. You can park at a little trailhead and you walk about I don't know, maybe a mile, maybe less, down this trail, and you can get in the river right there. And it's where the boiling river meets up with Gardner River, I believe. And so you have this hot lava water coming from boiling river meeting up with this cool water from Gardner River, and it's really nice to just kind of sit in there and enjoy. Okay, so you can spend a lot of time in that area if you really want to, enjoying the elk, the arch, and the river. And then keep going this way here. Next stop would be Tower. Interesting, I didn't notice they call it Tower Roosevelt, but we just call it Tower. The main things to see here are there's a little waterfall that you can walk out, not very far walk to go see the waterfall. And also you can get a little ice cream. There's a little gift shop there. You can get some food, get some ice cream, do a bathroom break if you want to. If you have time, you can drive out here to Lamar Valley, but I mentioned earlier this is kind of a tough one to get to and then to get all the way back to West Yellowstone in one day. But if you kind of planned it out and allotted for it, it's possible. If you go to Lamar Valley, you want to take a scope because it's a very big valley, and a lot of times you will see grizzly bears or wolves out there, but you probably need a scope to see them up close or to get a better look at them. And then after that, you'll drive south here, and you'll get to a very high point, the highest point in the park here, Mount Washburn. I believe it's the highest point in the park. And so it's some nice scenic views and all that, but you'll basically just drive over and come down to Canyon. Now, I already covered Canyon in the last section here, but again, you could see that as you're doing the upper loop if you wanted to do that. Basically, that's a day of the upper loop. Then you're going to drive back to West Yellowstone, and in 2 days there, you've done Yellowstone National Park.